So I've just caught up with this latest season of Love Is Blind, season 9. We're in Denver. 11 episodes have come out to this point. I've seen all 11 now. The final episode, the wedding episode, will come out next Wednesday, October 22nd, and then the reunion the week after that. And I wanted to wait to say anything because I had watched these episodes. I was kind of late watching them as they were kind of dropping. And I have some thoughts. If people who've watched Love Is Blind this season and the previous ones, let's tune in here to this TV talk because nobody needs to get married. I'm really actually, I don't know if anybody needs to get married. The one couple I think that of all of them that maybe, but I'm also kind of like unsure about them. Let's just go through them quickly. We had six couples, I believe, who got engaged. Patrick and Casey, Nick and Annie, Joe and Madison, Anton and Allie, Edmund and Calabria, and Jordan and Megan. I believe that's six. I think. I don't know. I didn't do the count there. I think that's six couples though. Let me start with actually Patrick and Casey. I'm going to touch on them quickly because they broke up before they even went to Baja. Like the little like engagement moon they do where they can finally like spend some time together and the whole kind of thing. And Casey was basically lying to Patrick, kind of like, and I wonder if we probably will get into this in the reunion. I reckon, but Patrick had been so open and vulnerable about being nervous, being like an Asian man and like usually the only Asian in the room and in his class and in his friend groups living in Denver, Colorado, things like that. He's like, I'm very much a Colorado bro, but I would get backhanded compliments like you're attractive for being an Asian. Any person of color probably has, especially if when you're in like a lot of like predominantly white spaces, you might have dealt with those similar feelings of, or even being told directly like, oh, you're pretty for a black girl, or you're pretty for, you look good for an Asian man, yada yada, whatever. So he was very nervous about even sharing his ethnicity, excuse me, but while they were in the pods, and like obviously it had a lot of trauma around that. Casey was open to it and like hadn't dated an Asian man before, but like her family, her brothers are all were dating people of color, and her family's really accepting, and all these kind of things. Great, it seemed great, cute, whatever. They get engaged, they have the meeting, it's cute, it's whatever, and then like couple hours, the next day, essentially before they're going to Baja, she breaks it off with him, and she's kind of like not really saying why. She's just like, I can't do it anymore. And I'm glad the producers played this clip before she talked to Patrick. She was saying to the producers like, yeah, the attraction, like maybe she said it was there, but like it's not gonna grow. Like I know it's not gonna grow, and like was trying to make it sound kind of nice. She didn't want to obviously say like I'm not attracted to an Asian man. I don't know, but like that's what it was giving. But then she was obviously trying to switch it up because when Patrick was there, she was being all like extra lovey-dovey, kissy, and jumping on him all types of things and saying like they're trying to make it about physical attraction. It's not that, and yada yada. And Patrick's like, okay, we don't have to do the show. Like that's fine. Like we can still like be with each other and Denver. Like let's just date normally or whatever. Like we can be engaged normally. We don't have to do the show if that's what the problem is. And she's like, well, no, like, like basically didn't want to like actually say that she didn't want to be with him at all. She was trying to like obviously like just find a way out of the situation. And we hear a little bit more about that like a couple weeks later when all the well, most of them are all like kind of like hanging out together. And Patrick says like he hasn't been able to see her, and like he'd been trying to like if again the whole if you don't want to do the show, why don't we just date then? And she's like not with it because she wasn't really being honest. I'm waiting to see what's happening on the reunion for that. But that's our first couple that splits, basically our first engaged couple that splits. Yikes. Moving on next to the next two couples who both like split basically off the back of each other, Nick and Annie, and then Joe and Madison. And I'm going to touch on Nick and Annie first because I feel like Nick and Annie's breakup and Nick leaving the experience, I feel like Joe was like, "Oh, we could leave the experience. Oh, let me leave too." So Nick and Annie, it was like he's the guy, he's a Canadian, I think, and he like lives in the woods, and Annie's a hair salon owner and all these things. And they seemed kind of alright. They were having some arguments while they were in Mexico, like nothing like I don't think it was anything that crazy, but like the night before they were going to leave, I think they kind of had like a little bit of a spat, and like and maybe there had been some differences they were going to work through, but then like after the night where all the singles and also the engaged couples were kind of together. I also the thing is too about the show. There's so many people in the beginning of the show. Like I forgot about Nick being the one who told someone else he loved them, and then like the next day he was like, actually, never mind, I'm gonna go with someone else. But actually, no, I love you. But actually, never mind again. I'm gonna go with someone else. I forgot that he was that guy. I said, oh, Nick, like that's yikes. They had a little another argument like after that night. He had been I forget exactly what I don't even know exactly remember what exactly it was, but it was she had said something like, "Well, you don't really love me." Then he got really upset at that, and then we just cut to like the next day, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah, it's over." And it was just like I remember like I like backed up the episode. I was like, "Wait, what happened again?" And I tried to back up and like hear what they were arguing about. And obviously, I know we don't see everything, But I was just like, well, what? At this point, like, it was like, I just was like, oh, this was kind of quick. I mean, this whole thing is quick. It's not what it is. And Casey's there trying to like, not Casey, Annie's there trying to like, not like, she wasn't begging, but she was like obviously trying to be like, wait, are you sure? Like, yada yada, the whole kind of thing. And, like, well, you can't just walk out of me. I want you to fight for this, or just try a little bit, whatever. And that's going on. I'm going to keep touching on, but let me actually move this conversation to like Madison and Joe. And again, I said, I feel like Joe saw Nick let the experience, so he was like, oh, I could do it too. And Joe, all of a sudden, the boys are doing the wedding like suit, the tuxedo fitting, and the girls are doing it on their place. As they usually do, like the hosts come and people's families come. The people were asking Joe, like, are the pants fitting well? Like, what's going on? And he was like, just give me a minute. And he like gets up he like doing an interview. He like says, can I talk about it later? Like, okay, we do this. I gotta get out of here. He gets up and like we see him leave. And whoever was on the editing crew, good job, because they started playing Man Child by Sabrina Carpenter, which is very, very good. And then it's the next episode. He's talking to Madison, and he like breaks up with her, and she is kind of doing similar to how Annie was, of like fighting, trying to be like, are you gonna like try, and all these kind of things. And Nick was like, well, I feel like, I keep forgetting these. Joe was like, I'm mixing up my white boys. Joe was like, the physical stuff is really great, and I love all that with you. Like, of course, any man would, I guess. But like, it's not. I know it's not going to be there, and whatever. And I almost feel like he was like, what's the point of continuing to try if I don't feel it? And similar, like Nick and Joe had similar things. Like, I already know I'm going to say no at the altar. Like, you can't force me to, marry you and things like that. And in similar kind of veins, Annie and Madison were both kind of still trying for, like, don't walk out of me, like seeing if something could be salvaged, and that whole situation. But Madison and Joe, even before this kind of like almost random cut like this, they needed to break up a while ago, because they had been fighting like for a while. They were fighting in Baja. Like one night, Joe got like seemed like he got pretty drunk or like that. He like left the party when all the engaged couples were hanging out. Madison comes back, tries to check on him. He's like maybe like halfway asleep, maybe still a little drunk or something like that. And she's like, they like get in an argument. She's crying out on like their patio. He doesn't come to console her. They fight some more. Then he like sleeps somewhere else, and then they like make up the next day. I feel like they were just like doing a lot of fighting and just like having sex, and like they had a great sex life, and that's awesome and wonderful. But I feel like they actually weren't actually getting to the problems, because then they'd move back to Denver, and they were living together at this point, and then they're fighting again about whatever it was. The communication was off, whatever it was, fighting again. And then we see the next day, oh, I'm glad you got to cuddle and you came up to me and whatever. We meet the families. It's good. It's cute and things like that. Joe before, like in his like VT, was talking about how like I haven't been with a woman who's like larger, things like that. Like I'm gonna continue to grow with like things, whatever. I don't know. But again, they had a good physical connection, and I feel like it was like a lot of just like we would fight. We would actually not really solve issues, or like we would kind of like solve it or like almost patch it, and then you sleep together, and then it's like, the whole makeup sex trope, and you kind of go back and forth with it. And Joe had said a couple times, like, I had fallen in love with this person in the pods, but it was still like a stranger in front of me, and I'm still trying to like get to know this person and figure out like what our journey looks like. So I understand. I don't understand. I haven't been in a situation like this, but I can see what they're coming from, and like, this is like a 4-week process. I think like it's a very quick process, and you're meeting someone brand new for the first time, and it's one thing to speak to someone over in between a wall over the phone, whatever, but actually be in space with each other and like need to work on those little communication things, as any relationship does. But they were fighting a lot, and it was like, they don't need to be together. They don't need to be together. So it's sad that it gets cut so, maybe not sad, but it getting cut so quick, because Madison was literally on the sofa crying, talking, I can hardly breathe, like crying and like struggling. Meanwhile, Joe can't get out of there quick enough. He's packing his bags, man. He is packing up. They like have a shot where he's like in the bedroom shoving his stuff into a bag, and Madison's there crying like and tearing up and whatever like that. It's like at this point they've both been each other's families. They've had all these things, like same with Joe, Nick and Annie. They had like all the family things. They'd had all these lovely situations. And then it was kind of just like cut, which, so I really feel like the boys knew that Nick had just left. I really feel like, I'm not sure how many days in between it was, but I feel like Joe was like, oh, I can just up and leave and it's okay. Like, maybe he was worried about the contractual obligations. I don't know, but I feel like he was out of there, which he realized, I can actually like just break it off right now. I don't have to wait until the wedding day. Sweet. Let's do it. I want to touch on one other thing with Annie and Madison and kind of like the wanting to fight for their partner to still like be with them and things like that, whatnot. And this also is going to bring me a little bit to Calibria and Edmund in a minute. But I obviously in every relationship you have to, especially in a monogamous relationship, you have to make an active choice every single day to choose that person and to do what you would do for your partner and what they need and things like that. And obviously when you're with someone, you know, like they know what you need, you know what they need, and like there's certain things that maybe like they don't like, you try to not do those things, the whole kind of compromise you do. But you have to make a decision every single day to commit to the person, to actively choose to be with them, to actively like love them and all these kind of things. It's an everyday choice. Of course some days are easier than others, but on good days and bad days you're making a choice every single day. And especially in an engagement, I haven't been engaged, but in an engagement, I even in a situation like this, even though it's like a quicker process, I understand that's probably even more, not even, probably even, it is more heightened in terms of like wanting to commit to what you've committed to in this person and like not wanting to give up. But at the same time, it is like, don't be afraid for someone to like just go, because if someone's that ready to just like cut and run, like, and again, I get it, I get the situation is like unique in like this whole experiment and whatever, but yes, you have. Sometimes you need to choose to fight for things, and but sometimes you also need to know when to maybe let someone go, and when they're not going to fight for you at all. Like, don't give your energy, don't waste your energy. I'm really curious to see what those women are going to say, like at the reunion, in terms of like maybe some of the post things that's happened that we haven't seen. If either of the men have like reached out again or other things like that, I don't know. And it wasn't like they were like, you know, begging and crying like, oh, please stay with me. They obviously wanted them to stay. And I also do feel like a part of that, them wanting them to stay. I think it was Madison brought it up, like, you're going to do this like right after we just met with the singles. That's going to be so embarrassing for me, or things like that. So there obviously is that added pressure of, one, we've already met our family. So now what am I going to tell my mom? Now I have to speak to my family members about my guy just left me or whatever. But then also like the friends we've made in this experiment, and especially the single ones who we haven't been able to see that much, we just saw them and we were happy go lucky, and now I have to tell them like you dumped me, like. So I feel like there also is that kind of like in Madison head, it seemed like you know, thinking about the social aspect and the peers, like what are they going to think and whatnot. But still, again, you make a choice to be with someone every single day, and I understand that. But Nick and Joe were literally like, see ya. It was just like without a, you know, similar. I just recently finished Love Is Blind UK. It gives similar to I forget what their names are, but the two guys who broke up with their women, they were actually married. They broke up with their women on January 1st and January 2nd. I'm not saying it was like they had planned, like Nick and Joe had planned this, and there were some allegations that maybe they had planned, like, let's do it at the same time. But for them, it seemed like as well, they kind of just made a decision and didn't really speak to someone else, didn't speak to their partner about it, especially in an engagement, marriage, relationship in general. Like, not, you have to, you know, anyway, I'm going to move off them because we have three other couples to talk about. Let me jump actually on this to Calibria and Edmund. Talk about a couple that does not need to be together. Hello, whoa. So many red flags have come up with Edmund for me from, honestly, while we were still in the pods. While we were still in the pods, I feel like he sees this very happy-go-lucky, like, you know, life of the party type of guy, whatever. Him and Calibria seemed to be kind of getting on well, but there were some times, even before the engagement, I was like, Calibria, like, I don't know, like, she was talking to someone else, I forget his name, maybe Mike, was it, I don't know, some other guy, and I thought maybe there, because Edmund seemed like he was a little bit like he was like not, okay? They get engaged, okay, we move on. They're in Baja, all the couples are in Baja, all the couples other than Caleb and Edmund have had sex. They all shared, the girls at least shared that, like at the engaged women shared that at their first like meeting with everybody. And Calibria was like, no, like Edmund knows, like I want to wait till marriage. Like she's had sex previously, but she wants to in this kind of have a different intention with like who she's marrying and things like that. I want to, you know, wait till marriage with you and whatever like that. Edmund tells the boys like, oh, I'm the only one who hasn't had sex. But he's like, you know, but I gotta hit before I get married. So let's talk about that. Even that language, that verbiage of I have to hit. You're talking about your fiance with the group of men. And listen, no one's being naive here. I know that girls as well. You know, we have talk and you know things like that. But even he wasn't. She had clearly laid out why she had that come to that decision. It wasn't like And for him to kind of like say it, I don't know. This the way he was talking about it was really weird vibes. And then at the party, everyone's together. He was like being kind of weird with her. He was like being all extra and kind of like I feel like I remember he was like rubbing her feet or kissing her feet really long and like sent another girl away, like said like, oh, maybe like go away from me or something like that. It was just like a bunch of the kind of weird vibes. And then in the evening they're talking and she's talking about like again her decision to not want to sleep with him because it maybe it come up like while they were at the party together, whatever, kind of like quietly or whatever. And she was talking about again this restating like, you know, I have this different intention and yeah, I've had one night stands in the past. And he got all upset like, I can't believe I'm giving you my all. I mean, I'm rubbing your feet right now and you saying you slept with people you don't even care about, but I'm giving you my all and I can't get nothing. Is this guy I what like let's have ourselves hear that. He was like getting upset because Calibria and what has had one night stands before and she said some people she hadn't cared about. Okay, that's her right, do what you want to do. And he's upset because, oh, I'm sitting here rubbing your feet and I don't get anything. Well, are you rubbing my feet just because you're hoping to get something? Are you not rubbing my feet because I've had a long day? Or like so what is your intention here? And he was like starting to tear up and get all and this is again, I'm over here like Calibra, like how are you not, and I'm not in love with this man, but I'm over here like, how are you not getting the ick right now? Because I was sitting there watching like, what in the, I'm not saying, listen, we love men who cry. That's wonderful and fabulous. But the reason he was like starting to tear up and whatever, it was like he was like throwing a tantrum, like a grown ass man throwing a tantrum. How old is the man? He's 29 years old. Get it together. Ugh. We continue on. They move to Denver. They're living in Denver together. We have other little spats where maybe like communication issues, whatever. There was one kind of bigger issue. There's another one, but I don't remember exactly what it was. But like little spots kind of things. She wasn't feeling heard, whatever, kind of like that, whatever. Whether the singles and the engaged couples are together, one of the couples said like, oh, like I think it was like Nick. Oh, Nick is so perfect, whatever, and a bunch of people are around, and Edmund goes, oh, I wish I could hear that. And Calibria, right away, some people start looking at Calibria because it's obviously like you're saying a dig, like, I wish I could hear that, which means like, you don't hear that from my partner. Oh, I wish I could hear that. And Calibria's like, wait, what did you say? And Nick right away noticed and said to Andy, like, oh no, she was saying like, I was perfect, but like, it's not true, like, haha, whatever. And Calibria was like, yeah, or Edmund said something like, yeah, I never hear anything positive from you. And Cleary right away is upset. Like, do you feel like this is the time to bring this up or to say that to me in like that way? Like, what are you talking about? Like, she was getting upset because it's like, and again, because people are noticing, like, you just kind of made a little dig at your partner, okay, around all these people. And he's like also trying to bring up other things like, oh, you don't even say anything positive about me. And she was like, wait, what? I just told you like last night how much I appreciate you and all, whatever, like, yada, yada. They go talk a little bit more. And then she's like still frustrated. He like walks away from her. And the boys are like, you should maybe go back over there. And he's like, well, now I can't. Cause like she goes to cry in the bathroom and whatnot. The next day they're talking. She like gets her point across. And apparently one of the issues too is like he always is interrupting her when she's trying to speak and things like that. So, you know, there's all this happening, and I just am like, what else? What else is there actually? They go on like a snowmobile, and apparently he was like being all like happy families. They come and like sit and like have a little drink, whatever. They're out there, and she's like, I feel like you're being so fake because just in the car you told me not to speak to you. And now you be getting the snowmobiles right after that. And you're like, oh, babe, it's perfect day. Like, you're putting on for the cameras. Like, it's weird, whatever, like, yada, yada. And she was getting really upset because he was going back and forth with her, back and forth. They kept doing this whole, like, fighting, apologizing, and, like, back and forth. And this is another situation of, like, again, I know every day you have to make an intentional choice to choose your partner and things like that. But I'm like, this is a little bit jarring and like, this is so early in for you to be having these kind of arguments like consistently. And again, this is only the snippet that we're seeing. We're not seeing a lot, but what we're seeing is mostly not great, is concerning. And Calibria, like this after this past kind of like argument, I feel like I'm not even really describing it well. If you've seen the show, like you obviously would know what I'm talking about. But after that argument, like he came back with flowers or whatever, and he apologized, and she was like, you know, that's you being a man, like you coming in like that, not sitting on your phone, not whatever, like coming straight up and just telling me like, you know, sorry and whatnot. And, you know, she was saying in her VT, like, you know, love conquers all. But babe, yeah, love conquers all a lot of times, sure, great, but that's not I don't know. It's not. They were one of the first couples, along with like Joe and Madison, who I was like, oh no no no, this can't stand. It's not. It's not. Unfortunately, I they need. It's a chop. It's a chop. I'll save any more thoughts on them because, like I said, we have another episode to go. Um, Second to last couple now, Allie and Anton. Now, Allie and Anton, I feel like they were one of the couples who were engaged earlier on in the season. So I almost like forgot about some of like their origin story, whatever, whatnot. But they seem fine, seem cute, whatever. We didn't really see too much of them in Baja, I feel like. So it seemingly went all right, whatnot. We get back to Denver and things seem to be going somewhat okay. They both work night shifts, so like one of the first scenes of them we see in Denver is like them having breakfast together after they both had these long nights. Anton makes them a mimosa for each of them, and Allie's like, okay, just a little bit because I have to work again tonight. Like, whatever. They go out to lunch with Anton's best friend and his new girlfriend of 4 months. They're having this nice time, whatever. The girls go to the bathroom, and in the bathroom, Anton's best friend's girlfriend says, yeah, so like, Anton and whoever his friend's name is, they used to like to hang out a lot and go to strip clubs, and they would drink a lot and party a lot. And Allie's like, oh, Anton told me it was Chris, whatever his friend's name is. Chris was the one who liked to party a lot or like whatever. And interesting, strip clubs. I don't really like that. And like she's like learning these things from this girlfriend. They go back to like the little lunch, and she just says like, we gotta talk later. Like maybe you're a little bit in trouble. Like, which by the way, why are you saying that at the table? Like, babe, it's because obviously you're saying like, oh, come go, this aired you out, like relax. We never really see the kind of conversation, but she's kind of like wondering like, okay, like, so are you a party guy? Because she was saying like, he told me he wasn't into that life, but if I'm now finding out that he was partying like that, like when his friend was single, or maybe he still was recently, or whatever, like that's so recently, that's a little bit concerning to me. We didn't really see like that follow-up conversation, but things come up later because we kind of think about the mimosa situation again, let's say, because all of a sudden we are back at their apartment, and Aunt Allie, I think, asked for a drink or something like that, or opened the fridge, and she was like, why is there only one beer left, or whatever kind of drink it was? Why is there only one beer left? We had like X amount in the fridge. And she was saying to the girls as well, like, Anton will come home from a shift like in the morning and have like two or three beers and go to sleep. And the girls are like, in the morning? Like, oh wow, like yada yada. And so then like after that like night with the girls and or all the people, whatever, and they're back in the apartment, whatever, like the next day. I don't know when the hell it was. And she's like, where are all the drinks? I thought we just had, where are they? And he's like, oh, I only had a couple. Well, you probably drank more than me. And she's like, I had two. And he's like, well, I had three. And then she said, well, we had like a 12 pack or something like that. She's like, the math ain't mathin'. Where are the drinks, Anton? And then suddenly he's like, oh, well, Patrick came over. Patrick, the guy who I talked about in the beginning. Oh, Patrick came over to this apartment? When was he here? She didn't even know he was here. He said, oh, well, he picked me up. And she said, so he came in here? He's like, well, he didn't come in. He was downstairs. And she's like, so he was downstairs and you guys had a beer? She's like, yeah, we had a beer. She said, but we had a 12 pack. So what's happened? And she's like, is there tequila still in the fridge? And he's like, oh, I don't know. She said, we had like half a bottle of tequila in there. He like goes and gets up to go check the fridge, knowing damn well there ain't no tequila in there. There's no tequila in there. And Allie's there like, this is concerning, Anton, because we had all this drink. And are you telling me you drank all of this already? Like, and Patrick is here. And like, what are you talking about? Like, it's giving AA, hello. And I'm a person, I don't drink. I go for the lemonade. I don't drink, but I have, obviously alcoholism I'm a firm believer. Addiction is a disease, things like that. Alcoholism, I feel like is in that. I'm not saying Anton's an alcoholic, but it was like the math ain't mathin'. We had a 12 pack, or she was talking about the tequila, things like that. He's like, well, I had 3, you had 2, Patrick had 1. So girl, there's 6 left. Where are the other 6? And the tequila's gone too. What? Hello, it's not adding up. And she's like obviously thinking about that, thinking about the thing that the friend had told her about, like him going out to strip clubs, which she doesn't like in general, like single or not single, like doesn't like that, and like partying a lot, and like this isn't good. Like I need someone who's not gonna, that's not great. Obviously, someone coming home and having 2 or 3 beers I know you said night shift, but having 2 or 3 beers in the morning, or even in general, I feel like it's just like okay, like that's a lot, bruh. they seem to be kind of getting on after that. We haven't seen any much more discussions after the drinking, and he was saying like, I drink, you drink, like I think you drink more than me tonight at the like social event, like So I know it is. I know it's an ebb and flow, and maybe it's a stressful time. I don't know, but that needs to be addressed because that's a big issue. That is a big issue. I feel like they seem to be getting on all right. Their families seem to like each other. Anton's like Russian and Allie's Brazilian, so their families come in and they meet each other's moms, things like that. It's like it's a very nice situation with the families. But that is something that's interesting to me because it's like, are your lifestyles going to line up? Because she's not a partier person. Maybe she used to be or whatever. I'm not sure. Or like, she's 29. She's a grown woman. He's 29 as well. But she's a nurse. Like all these kind of things. Like it's, we gotta, we can't be having we can't be having all of that. They have other little headbutts, not headbutts, but like obviously kind of figure out if she might want to go to school again and like will he be able to like support both of them if she like works less and those kind of things. But we'll see. I feel like I have them right now on my maybe don't get married list because I think not just the alcoholism situation, but I think mostly that needs to be kind of touched on some more. And maybe they can get through it. I don't know. And there's other little things in there. And I know we don't see everything, but yeah. Final couple now who when I was thinking about making this video, I was like, okay, this couple is maybe the one couple I could see. Maybe I would say like maybe they can get married, but now I'm like a little bit after episode 11, I was kind of again like thinking again like, well, I actually don't know. Which is why I said in the beginning of this video, I don't think anyone needs to get married out of these. Well, 3 have already broken up at these couples. We only have 3 left, but Megan and Jordan are the couple. Jordan has a son, Luca, who Megan loves to talk about his type 1 diabetes, and now her dad died from type 1 diabetes. It's like, I feel like she's almost trauma responding, and almost like, stop bringing up your dead dad who died from type 1 diabetes, and then your potential stepson who has type 1 diabetes. It's like you're planning his death. Like, it's kind of like, relax, like cut that, cut, stop. They come from different lifestyles, different classes, in a sense, in terms of like, Megan is very successful. Jordan is he's doing well as well, but Megan is like a different tier, obviously. And she introduced herself as Sparkle Megan. She likes things that sparkles. She's worked very hard to like have the life that she has, and obviously wants to live that life and jet off to Italy or Paris. She was talking about, why would I do a city and a country? Italy or France, whatever she'd been talking about like in last episode. Like, and Jordan was like, yeah, but like, when you have a kid, your life completely changes. Like, you can't just jet off like that. And like, bringing a 5-year-old to Paris overnight or like on a random trip would be like a torture, things like that. And they were having a little bit more conversations recently about like Jordan not being willing to maybe like open up about like his work and like coming home, and she's wanting to talk to him about his work and what's going on, and he doesn't really want to talk about it. He doesn't want to talk about work at all. I guess he talks all day. He's a branch service manager, whatever the hell that is, but he doesn't really want to talk about work, or he's just like so tired from like the whole day. And we're not his child has not been on camera, which I think is good, and so he probably is having that responsibility as well to some capacity. But it's they were kind of headbutting a little bit because she's like, I want to talk to you, and I feel like you want to just sit and say nothing. And it's like, and maybe he had said he was tired, and she was like, well, you're always tired, like that's ridiculous and something like that. And he's feeling upset because like, why are you saying like that's not nice, or I don't know. Like, I feel like with them, it's kind of like it's interesting situation because Jordan seems to be alright with kind of being a man who does not make nearly as much as Megan does, and what she can contribute to the marriage financially in that way. So that seems alright, but I feel like he's thinking about it a little bit, because he was saying like, I don't want you to like, you have to drop your class down, or like, I know I'm not bringing a lot to this marriage in terms of the financials, like they were looking at houses together, stuff like that. So there's that kind of element, but it really is also the being a stepmother right away element. And that's why I'm thinking, I think they could work potentially, but also that's why I also think in terms of maybe you don't want to rush into a marriage with someone who you're going to be bringing into your child's life and have them be your stepmother type vibe. I feel like when you're a parent, and again, I'm not a parent, but so, I mean, I don't know, but I feel like when you're a parent, you almost have to be, and I know this from people who I know who have children, you have to be even more aware of who you're bringing in your life. It can be a relationship, it could be a friendship, it can be the plumber who's coming by. You have to be even more particular about who am I bringing into my child's life, who am I exposing them to. So almost like doing I don't want to call it this to like kind of demean it, but almost doing like a quickie marriage, quickie wedding, and then suddenly, hey, it's mom, your stepmom. Like that's, I feel like you should give for both parties. Like Megan, this is a whole new situation for her. She would have to again prepare to be a stepmother and kind of like come into that role. And again, maybe you can't do tennis at 10 a.m. every Wednesday or whatever it is, whatever she was saying, and like the whole jetting off to Paris, whatnot. She needs time to acclimate herself, but also the child needs time to acclimate himself to like a new person, instead of like suddenly my dad is married and now I have to like live with this lady and I just met her and like what? Like maybe like give a little time for that. So there's all those kind of things that I'm thinking about there, actually, because I think of all the couples, even if they're in or out of this experience, I think maybe they have a shot at working out, but I think they should maybe think about being more steady with some of the steps, particularly with the having a child's already situation, because that's a whole other. No one else in this experience has a child that like you're gonna have to be a mother for or stepmother for or parent for or whatever on day one. Even now, even though she like met the kid once that we know of, whatever, off camera and whatnot, that's you already have to kind of be in that headspace. They're already thinking about where are we going to be in a place that we can have like Luca be in and all those kind of things. And then also, again, the whole thing of continuing to mention her father who has type 1 and now Luca has type 1 and now go, my dad died and like was Luca, like that's a lot. But I think also in general of kind of like, okay, like this is a big thing to bring into a child, especially a child who's 5 years old. That's a huge situation. And I feel like parents in general are much more cautious, or should be much more cautious with who they're bringing into their life and into subsequently into their child's lives. So yeah, those are our 6 couples. 3 are surviving as of recording. I know the show has already ended, but as of what we know, obviously I know there's spoilers out there, but I avoid all those things if I can. Why I literally just don't look at anything. Allie and Anton, Calibria and Edmund, Megan and Jordan. In the 3 who were surviving, my order would say who needs to break up immediately is Calibria and Edmund. They should have broke up. They shouldn't have even got engaged. Let's be frank. Calibria and Edmund need to break up. I think next, maybe not even break up. Well, they need to break up. But think about Allie and Anton and Megan and Jordan. I think those 2 couples could maybe stay together, but maybe don't get married, because Allie needs to suss out, is Anton a partier? Is he a heavy drinker? What's going on? Suss that out. And Megan and Jordan need to suss out maybe their financials. Is Jordan going to be confident enough to like be with this? And then also the situation of, oh, I'm a stepmom. Am I ready? Is he ready? Whatever kind of thing. That has to be sorted out is what I would think. And maybe don't rush into a marriage on either end. And the other 3 couples that have already broken up, we thank God, because they needed to be broken up clearly. Yeah, so wedding episode is coming out Wednesday, October 22nd. I look forward to watching that. I'll do another little, probably definitely a much shorter little video about that, probably based on seeing what happens with those weddings. And then the reunion, which is always, the reunion is usually quite good. So I'm looking forward to the reunion the week after that on the 29th, I guess it would be 7 days later. So yeah, all good things. Catch you guys in the next one. This was much longer than I thought it was going to be, but I've had a lot of thoughts. And in this lead up, maybe I kind of been doing episode by episode, but I kind of was like watching them kind of like in quick succession here. So I kind of dumped it all out right here now. So ta-ta. See you guys next week, maybe for more Love is Blind season 9 chat.